Now, what does happen is that this war within the self that a man is facing becomes so uncomfortable because of pride, because of ego, because of shame. True jihad, the true holy war is jihad al-nafs, the holy war of the self. Man, I was at war with myself for many, many, many years.
The man in the streets and the man in the corner office that's fighting for all of it have the same addiction, fighting the same war. They just have different coping strategies.
It can look like chasing the dollar, having a house, 2 cars, wear my suit and tie, trying to be the best sales rep in my company because my worthiness depends on it.
Everyone wants an ego death until they're breaking into my house. Anger is a very good emotion for the right reason.
You're not actually working on the anger, you're taking responsibility for your experience of life.
Welcome to another episode of the Embracing Human podcast. I am your host, Scott Stone, and today we have a very special guest, a man that I have come to get to know on a very personal level, just up to really cool things in the world, both in the social media sphere, but also in the human realm, especially with men. So without further ado, Ihsan Abbas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, thank you. Excited to be here. Excited to see where we traveled today.
Yeah, I have all sorts of different avenues. And first, for those who are not familiar with your work, what does your name mean, and how did it come to influence your social media platform?
Yeah, so my name in Arabic is Ihsan. And when I was born in Edmonton, Canada. When I was born, the nurse was reading out my name and she said Ihsan. And so my parents were like, okay, you know what? For the non-Arabic speakers, his name will be Ihsan. And so my name's been Ihsan my whole life. And I was visiting a friend who lives off grid in the mountains. This might have been 8+ years ago. And there's a old hippie guy that lives with him in the mountains. And after a few days up there, he comes to me, mispronouncing my name wrong for days. Then after a few days comes up to me, he's like, I got it. Eyes in. That's how I'm going to remember your name. And I was like, whoa, that's it. That's it. And it was like the heavens opened up. It all started to make sense. And eyes in came to be on social media about, yeah, 4 years ago.
Hmm. What has that journey been like? You know, we talked in the fellowship about you shared the first video you made in the forest, and what has it been like for you to exercise using your voice and sharing your truth in that sphere?
Man, I resisted getting on social media so hard. Like, I'm the guy who never had Facebook, never had a MySpace, never had an Instagram. Like, when I started going down the path of coaching, there was like this realization of like, you need to get out there now, bro. You're gonna have to do the damn thing. And I resisted it so much. And there were these judgments I was holding towards other people, but really towards myself of like, I don't want to be this guy making videos and, putting on an act and talking and this and then, but it was really, I was just scared to be seen. And I remember just this like knowing of, man, if you can just assist one person, it'll all be worth it. So get your ass out there. And I was like, all right. And slowly, slowly gaining a little bit more confidence in myself, get more comfortable in my own, hearing my own voice. It started off sharing quotes from Rumi and Ram Dass and just kind of a little bit more, I would say, disembodied spiritual teachings. They weren't necessarily integrated, but it was all serving a purpose, putting me out there, facing those fears of what will people think of me. And so it's been, yeah, over 5 years of refinement, of finding my voice, finding myself, allowing myself to perform and dissolve that layer of performance away slowly over the years. And also too, is a beautiful medium for me to integrate what I'm learning. And so to be able to teach what I'm learning through this kind of digestible way over the phone, it's helped me deepen that integration as well. So, yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious what your process looks like for the space for these things to come through. I have this like kind of funny image of you like every night drinking a little ayahuasca, and then the fucking download comes through, and then all of a sudden you get your Hello Kitty mug, and What does it look like? How have you created the space for these messages to come through you?
Yeah, it didn't. So you're right. It's ayahuasca every night.
But through your asshole.
Oh man. It wasn't always so it started off very mechanical. Okay, I'm gonna post once a week on Wednesdays, and it would be like, all right, sit down. What do I want to talk about today? And then with that, it started to become like, okay, what do people want to hear today? What will get me likes? What will get me, that validation and that pat on the back. And so there was that at the beginning, very kind of black and white, like, even planning a post and all of this stuff, or recording a video 30, 40 times until I got one that I thought was good. And it slowly, I don't remember when the shift came specifically. I think it was kind of like this gradual unfolding, but there was a point where I started to, if there was a signal, a hint, a ping, a stream that was coming through me, I would honor that right away and either pick up the camera and start recording or go to the computer and just start writing.
Mm,
And so that allowed me now, what I'm coming to understand is that I'm tapping into this collective current. And when I get out of my way, I'm able to sense what energies are moving through the collective, download that and transmit that. But the more comfortable I became in trusting myself and just like doing, like sitting and literally writing and trusting what's coming through and not overthinking it and not contorting to the audience, just trusting that this is means to come through and be delivered, and those who are meant to receive will receive. The more I practice that, the clearer it got. And now I just don't question it. If there's something coming through, boom, go, do it, drop it, do it, drop it. And so, yeah, it went from really rigid black and white of like business culture of like, you're going to post 2 times a week, you're going to make stories 3 times a week. And then it's like, yeah, nah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I really hear in that is like just from a visual perspective, it's like being more by doing less. I would imagine that if you're not like, preparing meals for Shanti and your son, like you're playing basketball and doing some work here and there, but you have what I imagine is you have space in your life for this to come through, and you have the ability to go to these things as you feel called.
Yeah, I've created a life for myself where there's a lot of space. And not only is there a lot of space in terms of for my attention to be placed on playing this game, connecting dots, seeing different layers. And so as I'm seeing through my own direct experience, I'm being invited to share. As I'm tuning into the collective experience, I'm being invited to share. And so space is necessary, silence is necessary, solitude is necessary. If I'm constantly drowning myself in noise and video games and this and that, and it's like there's no space for it to come through. And so that has been a very key factor. And I'll have these windows during the day as well, where typically my writing happens shortly after I wake up. I know some people, for them, it's like at night, everybody's asleep and you can write. But for me, there's like this window of, yeah, from like about 10 to 1 where the clarity comes in to write. Um, yeah, lots of space.
Hmm. Yeah, and through all that, I hear a lot around, and you said it kind of directly of fighting the Eisen that wants to perform and that wants to say the thing for the audience and all that. And there was a post you made, this was probably months ago now, but you distinguished what the word jihad was really about.
Mm,
And I would wonder if you could explain that in a way of, why people would rather, succumb to the war of their bullshit versus the war of themselves.
mm. Yeah, the term jihad is understood to mean holy war. And through anti-Islamic propaganda and the Muslim extremist terrorist narrative that started up heavily after 9/11, jihad got taken and implanted in the collective psyche as like the Arabs are coming to kill us. They are going to wage a holy war on us. But the true jihad, the true holy war is jihad in nafs, the holy war of the self. Now, what does happen is that this war within the self that a man is facing becomes so uncomfortable because of pride, because of ego, because of shame, because of just these defense mechanisms of like, I don't want to see myself. And also, I'm not able to see myself in the outside world. And so it's easier, quite literally, to take out the sword and go declare war on the external than to face the war within myself.
What does that war look like for Ihsan?
Man, I was at war with myself for many, many, many years, and there's still parts of me that are at war with myself. I think before, I stepped on the pathless path of self-cultivation, inner knowing, the war looked like a lot of unprocessed shame, unworthiness coming out in the form of anger, very quick to the trigger, per se, growing up. The war with the self also, it looks pretty as well. It doesn't always look like an angry outburst. It doesn't always look like addiction and numbing and disconnection. It can look like chasing the dollar. It can look like having a house, two cars, wear my suit and tie, trying to be the best sales rep in my company because my worthiness depends on it. It can look pretty, right? Getting the women, like it can look pretty. It can look even desirable to those who don't have the eyes to see. But really, when I sit with all of it, the truth is that I was seeking for my wholeness from that. I was seeking for worthiness from that. I was seeking to be deemed as lovable from all of that. And so I think that the holy war of the self originates from not feeling whole, from not feeling one with God. And so we go out into this illusion trying to grasp on to whatever we can to feel whole, to feel in coherence with our godlessness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. One of my coaches, Peter Crone, said once that like the man in the streets and the man in the corner office that's fighting for all of it have the same addiction. You know,
Mhm.
they're fighting the same war. They just have different coping strategies. You know,
Yeah,
and the righteousness of one versus the other of like, no, this is it. And it's like, oh, interesting. Like, tell me more, and how we can hide in plain sight. It's really it's a really interesting thing.
yeah.
The presentation of it all.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the heroin addict or the workaholic who's the VP of his company, let's say, on paper, you would say, okay, obviously the heroin addict is on the wrong path. And this guy who's crushing it and making $700,000 a year, he's on the right path. But it's never enough for both of them. That's what they have in common. It's never enough. It's always chasing the next high in the version of how they're getting high, and it stems in, yeah, disconnection with the self, disconnection with God, this like seeking energy, right? Chasing the high, chasing the high. And we see where it's kind of gotten us in this world, man.
hmm I'm curious what your path to whether it's honoring and expressing or dealing with whatever you want to call it. Anger. I think a lot of men struggle with that emotion. I think we've built a society where we're not supposed to be angry, but
Mm.
what was it like for you to honor that emotion and let it pass through you?
It's interesting because anger, I was labeled as an angry kid. I
Mm-hmm.
was labeled that I have an anger problem. And so, although let's say that was mishandled by those who were meant to handle me, it served as a seed of self-mastery. There was like this awareness, although it was inverted and rooted in shame, and you shouldn't get angry, there was still this thread of there's a different way to experience what you're experiencing. And so there was both. There was the feeling of shame. I got angry again. I fucked up again. I failed again. I'm this angry kid that can't control himself. And there was this knowing of like, there could be a different way. And so it wasn't until, yeah, man, many, many years, you're talking about rock bottoms, awakening, like finding myself having to really sit with like, oh, here's the thing, you're not actually working on the anger, you're taking responsibility for your experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
That ends up including, I'm feeling angry in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was like, yeah, we can focus on the anger itself, but really like it's this grand undertaking of becoming who you really are under all of that. And seeing too, this is the thing too, even seeing it as an anger problem was discounting the grief that the anger was masking. And so there was a lot of parts work, there was a lot of unraveling, and also understanding that my anger does serve me. The sacred rage does serve me. There is power to it. And as I started diving deeper into shadow work, I was starting to see that my capacity to go there, my capacity to destroy everything in my path, if I want to, is actually where my power comes from. My integration of that capacity for destruction is actually where my power comes from.
Hmm.
Because it's the difference between the man who wouldn't hurt a fly and the man who can't hurt a fly. And so the knowing that this darkness, this thing within me that would be ready to fucking kill somebody to gain a perception of balance, to regain quote unquote justice, this part of me integrated is where I draw my power from. And so this whole like even people I identify the anger as bad, and but it's like, man, I trust a man who's able to go from 0 to 100 but chooses not to, than a man who just cannot access that within himself. Yeah, it's like you take what was your pain, what was the thing that was a problem, and all of a sudden it becomes this like source of embodiment for you.
Hmm. Yeah, what you shared there reminded me of the quote, "Everyone wants an ego death until they're breaking into my house."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like anger is a very good emotion for the right reason, right? Like boundaries transgress. You break into my house, you're going down, you know, like you come at me or my family, like we're gonna have some words. But that the difference between being a monster and dialing it back versus a coward and being unaware of what you're capable of, like one is dangerous, the other is powerful.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the break into my house because in Canada, it's you go to jail if you harm the person who breaks into your house. People have gone to jail for yeah. But anyways, there's a quote I love that about anger. It's like, man will realize there's another way to handle his anger when a mosquito lands on his testicles.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What's been your relationship like with anger, man?
Great question. Um, for many years, the amount of good boying I did, I didn't even allow myself to feel the anger. And when I started doing, the dark night of when I started into the dark night of the soul and then taking accountability for it, I realized I was very angry. And under that anger, like you said, was the grief of a childhood that I wished I didn't have. And over time, it allowed me, and I kind of look at it like fasting. Like I had to go to one end of the spectrum to dial it back. I had to go to the rage and the beating things and the screaming and the yelling to honor the pain that was under there. And so I guess where I'm at now with it is really in this ownership of my life, of there are reasons why I'm angry and have been angry, and to explore those, because so often under that is a hurting boy. And so
Mm, mm,
one thing I have found through therapy is, going to my therapist and just allowing myself to be angry, and allowing myself to have emotions. And it makes a lot of sense that when I don't, anger builds to rage. And then it moves from containment to like seeping out and spilling out on people around me. And all of a sudden it's like, where'd that come from? And it's like, oh, I've just been repressing myself for like a week and a half now. And I've just gotten so tired in the moment that I'd let it out. And surprise, and so it's been a really interesting dance to honor myself in moments that feel less than put together or pretty, like, yeah, I'm annoyed right now and I don't want to own that because I feel less than, but the reality is that emotion is present. Yeah, it's been a really interesting dance. I would say, I feel very comfortable in my shame. The current end boss is anger.
mm. Do you feel like there's an undercurrent of like frustration at times? What's your like, is that because that was kind of my maybe experience, let's say, with my dad, where yeah, at times there's like this, it's just kind of an undercurrent. You could feel the undercurrent of anger.
Sure.
as a
Yeah, I would say there's like if we want to bring in some of like the tools like human design as a generator, the anti-self is or the not self is frustration. And so there
Mm,
has been like a mild sense of frustration that occurs as a narrative that sounds like this isn't fair.
mm, mm.
And that's been a narrative that I really unpacked in therapy of like life's not fair, like inherently it's not designed to be fair. It just is what it is. It wasn't fair that I was abused as a kid. It wasn't a fair that my parents were not present or whatever, right? But that was the invitation for me to hold that little boy who felt like it was not fair.
And that's where my anger used to pop off when I was younger. It would pop off in class when I'd be talking to a kid, let's say, and all of a sudden the teacher would turn and be like, Eisen, stop talking. But there was two people talking.
Mm-hmm.
So my feeling of that's not fair, I would just explode.
Yep.
Or in sports, man, getting into altercations in basketball when there would be no foul call,
Mm-hmm.
fairness. It would
Right.
be like, that's not fair. This guy just fouled me on the other side, and now you're calling a foul on me. I did the same thing. Boom, technical. I'm getting into a fight with the ref.
Right.
Same thing with my folks, not feeling like it's fair because they're seeing it a certain way and telling me, no, you can't do this, and that's not fair. Boom, explosion, punch a hole in the wall,
Yep.
right? In union, oh, you don't see what you're doing, and it's not fair that you don't see, and you're getting upset with me, but I don't have a say in what you're doing, and it's like that's not fair. And now it's like boom, a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fairness and also too, I think when we are living through this it's not fair consciousness in our lives, we are angry with God,
Yes.
who is the author of the fairness. It would be God. And so again, once again, we have, and if God is within me and I'm angry with God, this war is happening within myself. And what happens? It's not only poisonous to us because we're like sucking the joy out of our own lives,
Mm-hmm.
but also too, man, it's like, and this is a conversation men need to have with each other. It's we become almost insufferable to be around because the people around us have to tippy toe around us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they have to protect us from our own feelings because here's this guy walking around with this undercurrent of frustration who's battling with God and is looking to ventilate it out on a random thing. Yeah, I think I was that guy, in my previous marriage and in previous relationships where you didn't want to upset me. You had to walk on eggshells because there was this emotional fragility, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point, a couple of them. One, in this not fairness, the distinction I really like clue into there is this like the boy prince energy, and it's interesting that this podcast was originally slated for I think it was the week of the No Kings protest.
Mm,
And so in that, right, this interesting dichotomy of like there's no embodied masculine, but there's also like kind of a call of like there is kind of no embodied masculine around these days.
yeah.
And so this, as you said, right, this opportunity for men to speak on these things. And I'm curious your take on this we obviously talk this a lot in the fellowship, but the epidemic of boyhood in our society.
Yeah. The prince, you have to think the prince has no responsibility because the responsibility lies with the king. So the prince doesn't hold responsibility. The prince also has a sense of entitlement. I am the king's son, right? And so there's this maturation that is being asked of men to go from prince to king. And it's interesting too, because the reason we didn't do this podcast initially was because I told you I need to focus fully on my pregnant wife. We're nearing the birth portal. And so and the way in which you responded to me was very kingly as well. It would be an honor for me to be able to support you and your wife by rescheduling this podcast. So there was this acknowledgement of like kingship between the two of us. And I don't want to say, because there's this narrative that there's no more rites of passage these days,
Mm,
right? There's no initiations from boyhood to manhood these days. But even saying that is to victimize where we find ourselves. Even saying that is to say where I am right now is not good enough because there's no rites of passage. But brother, life is a rites of passage. Your union is a rites of passage. A heartbreak is a rite of passage. Loss is a rite of passage. You know, going on a medicine journey can be a rites of passage. Like going with the fellowship for 15 months can be a rites of passage. How we now are in a position where we have to choose into the rites of passage. Nobody's coming to say, all right, Scott, you're 16, get your ass out into that cave and don't come back. That's not the case now. The case now is you saying that to yourself. Okay, Scott, tired of your shit. We've been looping, we've been extracting, we've been miserable, we've been dissociating. It's time to go into the cave. And that's where the work begins.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of my favorite aspects of the hero's journey, and not favorite in experience, but favorite in truth, is the refusal of the call. Of like, all right, I'm going in the cave. And it's like, you know what? Actually, I'm not. You know what? This is pretty nice out here. And to vacillate between suffering and sovereignty, and choose to be like, no, I'm gonna put my head back in the sand. And then be like, you know what? Actually, I'm really tired of my bullshit. And I think that's something that I've come to understand of like I really do only want men around me holding my emotions with me. Like I used to have so many women that are like, "Oh, I'd love to hear what you're up to and come to this." And now I'm like, I don't talk to the only woman I talk to my about my feelings with is my therapist and my partner. Other than that, it's the men in the fellowship and it's the men in other men's groups, but like I don't know. I'm curious what your take is on that. Obviously, you've cultivated a container of men, but what's Eisen's perspective on that?
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying like the distinction between bringing your feelings to your woman kind of thing? Or tell me
Uh,
what do you
yeah, like the difference between doing men's work with other men and looking to anybody, whether it's men, women, or otherwise, to hold your experience.
Well, we specifically in the fellowship are agreeing to enter this arena together. So by you joining the fellowship, by another brother joining the fellowship, you guys are making this agreement that we will meet in this arena. And what wants to come through us, how we are going to process, how we are going to meet ourselves is contained in this space. Now, I want to disagree with one thing you said. I only want to be with men who will hold my emotions with me. But I don't feel like it's anybody's responsibility to hold another person's emotions.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you meant it that way, but the emotional experience is very unique to your template and what you're moving through and how your this reverberation of an impression or an imprint within your own waters is speaking to you. And so nobody can necessarily hold the emotion for you, but they can be with you as you're holding it for yourself,
That
not take it on themselves, right?
correct.
And so I think where what we've created with each other is, bring your shit, bring your victim stories, bring the emotions you're having about an imbalance in your union. Get clear here because this is a space for you to clarify the muddy waters, to see through your own distortions, to refine your vision, and then now go back to real life
Hmm.
and move from that clarity, move from that space of purification. Right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's more so what I meant. The holding the
Yeah.
space for me to unpack my own and take
Yeah.
responsibility for.
Mhm.
Yeah, and maybe there's just some like older judgment I have on myself because of the sloppiness to which I did it with any woman that was willing to be my mother for 5 minutes years ago. And so,
I mean, that's part of the path too, because at least for me, other men, you couldn't really emote or share how you're feeling with other men. And so there was, you could call it dependency, you could call it seeing my mother in them, whatever you want to call it. There was still uh, safety in a space that the feminine would hold for that emotion to show, for those tears to come out.
hmm.
Um, I think that it may be part of the path for a lot of men,
Hmm.
right? Where we go through that, it's like I'm only able to really share my emotions with women because that's where it feels safe and they're more connected to their emotions and they're probably going to be more accepting because they're not conditioned to see me as weak and soft and a pussy and whatever. And I don't have to shield myself as much around them because men are a threat to me. And so, and then we start to realize like, okay, I may have been also seeking to be soothed by these women.
Right. Right.
I may have been seeking to feel accepted by these women. Right. I may have been seeking to extract from these women. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm this isn't the way for me.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to one thing you said about rites of passage because there was a thing that I noted in here. It was something I deeply connected on with you in both of our journeys and in the rites of passage world, and that was the stewardship of animals.
Mm,
And in the amount of animals that have come across your path, but one specifically like really stood out. And I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about Noodles.
mm, you got chills. Yeah.
Why was that one so potent?
Living in Costa Rica, we had three dogs and a cat, and we got a call one day and from a neighbor, and they said, "Hey, there's this dog that showed up that needs a surgery, and we have nine dogs, and we can't take her, and if nobody takes her, she's getting put down." So we went and picked up Noodles, and Noodles had basically the pad of her paw completely open and infected, and it stank like death. And it was like a jiggly, like it was really bad. And this was leading up to her surgery. And I was the only one who could stand the smell. So I would stay with her in one of the rooms. And she was so sweet and so skinny. And we took her for the surgery. And as we're driving to the surgery, we're like, what are we going to call her? And we're like, you know what? Let's call her Rana, because Rana means little frog in Bribri. And without knowing that they had to amputate her arm. And so after they amputated her arm, she was just hopping around like a frog. And so, and she was just so sweet, man. We had such a beautiful relationship. Like I'd carry her around everywhere. Shanti would host retreats. She would ask me to leave with Rana because nobody could look after her. And so I would be in this Airbnb alone with Rana um and yeah, when we moved, we didn't know how long she would last for. We thought she was like 3 years old, and it turned out that she was like 10.
Mm.
And so we didn't know how long she was gonna last. And now we've got four dogs, and one of them's a three-legged pit bull. And like, man, so we make the big move to Texas. We bring Noodles with us, and the reason why we called her Noodles was because Rana became the nickname was Ronald, and then Ronald J. Noodles was her full name, so I just called her Noodles. And when we made the move to Texas, she's just attached to me, man. She'd come barrowing into my office, opening the door with her head, and come like just sit at my feet. She'd follow me around everywhere. Wherever I went, she'd follow me around. Um, she's just so sweet. The only female pet that we had, so there was that extra little bond, and she's just so sweet, man. And yeah, one day, um, she threw up a couple times, and I thought that she may have like swallowed a sock. And so we took her to the vet because if they swallow a sock, it can get in their intestines and fuck them up and whatever. And we took her to the vet. They did an x-ray and they were like, it's not a sock, but it's a giant tumor. And we could cut her open and do it and all this stuff and da da da. And then, the decision was made to put her down. Yeah, very sad. Very sad. She was so sweet, man.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just this initiation to manhood and grief. Grief seems like a man thing, not a boy thing, right? The stripping of the innocence of life,
Mm, mm,
and I said when my dog died, when I put him down, this was 2 years ago now. I said that was the day I became a man because I held my best friend's hand while he died. I ushered him to the other side, and before that, I felt like a boy. I felt like just the prince and all of that self tyranny and whatnot. But in that moment, grieving, I mean, he opened up a portal of grief that allowed me to transmute so much of my childhood. And
Mm,
and just seeing the bond you had with Noodles, she always stood out as a really special one.
yeah. Yeah, we got our ashes downstairs. Yeah, the relationship with the dog is so special, you know. It's like God has created these little beings, these companions to give us a glimpse into what unconditional love is.
Hmm.
And we get to spend a short time with them, you know, building this bond, building this love, feeling this love from them. And yeah, when they leave, when she left, you could feel the space that she left in the house. And that's still with three dogs and a cat. And you still could feel like the space in the house. Yeah. I like what you said there, though, in terms of grief being an initiation for a man, because loss is an inevitable aspect of life, and how we allow ourselves to be present with that grief, to honor that grief, to almost like meditate and worship upon that grief is what what gives us substance in life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm curious, a couple months in now, obviously the pregnancy as well, but the initiation of fatherhood and
Mm.
the emotions and just the ceremony that you've been in over the past, however long you want to consider yourself in it.
Yeah. The initiation of the fatherhood. You've I had a friend message me after we gave birth, and he was like, he has maybe like a 6 month old, and he was like, get ready for those first 6 weeks.
Mm,
When I first held my son, I could feel the depth of unworthiness just come to the surface. Like it was so grand. I was holding the purity of God's light in my hands. And what this was asking of me to step into felt so grand in that moment that I was like, I see why fathers leave.
mm,
I see why fathers check out. I see why men are disconnected from fatherhood when they are fathers. It's because this is asking so much of you. It's asking so much of you. And so there was, yeah, the purity of his light brought up a lot of unearthed shit in those first 6 weeks. Combine that with lack of sleep. I wrote this thing where it's like, you know, they torture people with sleep deprivation to pull out information from them.
hmm.
And so the sleep deprivation in those first 6 weeks, 8 weeks, pulled out a lot of information from me of, yeah, different outdated patterns and programs that were just like, this needs to be looked at because this is what you're giving your son. This is what you're nourishing your son with right now. So you need to be aware of these elements within you. And it's just all, you know, the initiation into fatherhood, like there's a lot of skin in the game right now, pun intended. There's a lot of skin in the game. Like it all kind of now self prioritized.
Yeah, I remember you sharing in the fellowship, one day holding your son and just bawling, and it just kind of gave me this visual of like, oh, what a beautiful way to like defrag the computer. Like, hey, we're gonna offload this. Like, I really truly believe that, and we can see this when we test the genetic or the hormonal composition of tears, if it's oxytocin or adrenaline or cortisol, like what's actually coming out, and
Mm,
like the memory of our existence lives in the water of our cells. And so what a beautiful way to like offload and create space for new ways of being to come through, and to shed the old ways of being that are no longer going to be projected on and in a way like mirrored to your son. Like, and to some extent you've already given him some of those things through the mitochondrial DNA and
mm,
that
mm.
aspect, but in the harmonic aspect, if you don't keep playing that pattern, it might not get activated. And
Yeah.
so what a beautiful technology we have inbuilt to just be like, and we're gonna let some of that go now.
Yeah, it was I was shared with you guys like it was an absolute psychedelic experience. It was like
Yeah.
4 days after we had birth. I'm holding him. All the adrenaline kind of wore down of like, oh my God, he's here. And I was just holding him and just I could feel my heart being broken open and I was sobbing and I couldn't look at him. I would look at him and just start sobbing and weeping and look away and look at him and I could feel my heart being recoded and retemplated. I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, this is so intense. My wife turns to me, is like, what's happening? What are you feeling? What's happening? I'm like, yo, they my team, my guys, whatever, like my higher aspects of myself, it's like they're working on my heart right now to hold this love for this kid. And even yesterday I was holding him and I'm like looking at him, just had this deep realization of like he's fully his own soul, you know. He's got his own path, his own mission. He's come here to be what he wants to be. And it's like, yeah, just let me be capable of helping you reach where you want to reach.
Mm.
Because you know the old stories. I grew up. You're gonna be a doctor. You're gonna be a lawyer. You're gonna. It's like, whoa, this guy, this being is so advanced. I just need to create the space for him to bring that all online and keep him alive long enough for him to have the skills to move through life on his own. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's been quite the initiation, man. And I'm so blessed, man. I'm so fucking blessed. My wife, the mother of my child, she's just amazing. She's amazing. The way she loves on him, the way she cares for him, the way she's also allows me to have space to tend to myself, to tend to my mission. Yeah, it's just been really beautiful to also see their relationship get stronger and stronger day by day, week by week, and it's just so beautiful, man, to see them, to see their bond. Yeah.
Hmm. What a beautiful bedrock to build this, human agreement upon, right? Like you both were doing your own work before you decided to work together to create a human and keep him safe in the world. And, I think I saw something you had posted maybe a week or so ago about like, I think it was Shanti was getting the massage, but like, oh, I'm going to do what is necessary to allow you to be the fullest expression of yourself so that can be the mother, or in your case, the father that our son is gifted to.
Yeah, like me taking night shifts, letting her get sleep, letting her rejuvenate, letting her go to the sauna, letting her, but like creating space for her to take care of herself, to go to Pilates, to go, yeah, even just sit in the bath for 3 hours. It's like, it's okay. Go take care of yourself. I got him. I'm gonna clear everything out. I'm gonna take care of him. Don't worry about it. Just like focus on yourself. Go out with your sister, do whatever you want. Come like it's like an offering to each other without necessarily even trying. It's just an awareness of like, I want you to feel good. I want you to feel nourished and taken care of. And so go take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just see, like, what a gangster way, a gift for your son of like, hey, your mom's milk is going to be full of, it won't be full of cortisol. It's going to be jam
Mm.
packed with serotonin, oxytocin, like, you're like supercharging his nutrition by creating a space for your wife to feel supported and safe. Like what a masculine expression.
Yeah. I mean, they say the way a woman is treated in pregnancy and postpartum, like she never forgets that. It's loaded in her cells.
Wow.
And so, like, there's a lot of abandonment that happens in that time. The man's feeling so much pressure, her hormones are all over the place. There's like a lot of pressure that starts to come up and a lot of chaos energy because it's through that chaos energy where birth comes in. And it's like, can I remain present enough, supportive enough, and in service to the mission right now is him. He becomes the mission. Caring for him becomes the mission. Creating a frequency, a harmonic resonance within the home to nourish him with becomes the mission. So how can we be of service to that and really devote ourselves to that? And I think part of that initiation from prince to king is the fact that now the prince is just living for himself, whereas the king is living for the totality of the kingdom, an
Hmm.
honorable king, let's say. And so now my life is not mine anymore. Everything I do is for my family. Everything I build is for my family. Everything I purify within myself to protect my family. It's like it's all for my family. It's I'm no longer living my life for me. And in that, not as a martyr, but in a place of pure devotion to something greater than myself.
Hmm. Yeah. It pinged me the topic that I really wanted to dive into,
Mm,
which was boundaries. And it pinged me because at the beginning of this, I asked a very clear question of like, do you have a hard cutoff in 90 minutes? And you said yes. And it was so like embodied of like, I don't even like done, got it. Like, not that I would ever question it, but it's like very clear. And it reminded me of the story you were telling post birthing, of the packet of information you brought to the hospital,
mm,
you know.
mm.
Could you tell me a little bit about preparation for both your son coming into the world, but also the boundaries that you had after with regards to who would hold him and who would not, and who would be allowed around the house, all that stuff? Like, that was really inspiring to hear the level of clarity you had in this regard.
Yeah, I mean the ability to uphold the boundaries became a lot easier when it's for my son, who you allow into the house, who you allow access to his field. It became very easy to just be like, no, this person can't come stay over to the house, right? It's like your boundaries are essentially saying what I will and will not accept.
Mhm.
It's not about you. It's not about whether or not you honor my boundaries. It's about me honoring my boundaries for myself, right? And this game is so interesting because, like you experienced at the beginning of this, it's just a simple yes or no. What I do consent to, what I don't consent to, what I will not participate in, or what I will participate in. So if you and I are having a conversation, we get into a disagreement, and you start becoming fucking rude and chaotic with me and emotional and everything, I'll be like, brother, I'm not participating in this conversation unless the energy changes. And now you have an opportunity to either shift or I have to remove myself.
Mhm.
And we often think that a boundary it carries emotionality with it, but really that's just an emotional reaction. The true boundaries from center. This is the line. It will not be crossed. And that's it. It doesn't have to be rude and harsh and reactionary. It's just like this is the line. And it's necessary in union and friendship and partnership and business because if you do not have boundaries with me, you're a threat to me because now you're liable to start building resentment, building festering narratives, you know, just feeding these kind of imbalances and distortions because you have not honored your own boundaries. And so the expectation is not on the other person to honor a boundary I haven't even set. So the one who does not honor their own boundaries becomes dangerous to co-create with and to be and share space with.
Yeah, I've heard before once, like if the boundary is violated, you move the person, not the boundary.
Mm.
You know, a lot of people I think get it wrong and they're like, "Oh, let me try a little softer boundary." And it's like, "No, no, no. Like if you don't respect this boundary, you just move further back. There's a whole new boundary for you now." And what I really heard in that, and it gave me an opportunity to reflect on myself of like, okay, if I were to have a child, I feel like my mom would have so much opinion about it. And it's like, oh, the only reason that there might be a reason that I would succumb to that is if I felt like I relied on her. Otherwise, I'd just be like, I don't give a shit. Like, this is the boundary, and you can take it or leave it. And I'm not going to cave on any of these things. And there's been a lot of those. And, COVID was an example. And, you know, leaving corporate America was an example. And healthcare is an example. Like, there's a lot that I reveal in my family as the black sheep. And to hold those boundaries as my own self-respect for myself and just be like, this is what it is. There is no waiver here. It's caused a lot of friction, but ultimately a lot of acceptance and for me, from me, and from them.
Yeah, I mean, some people might disagree with how I went about things, but when my son was born, my parents wanted to come visit, and I told my mom straight up, like, we're not letting anybody hold him for the first 40 days. And after that, it will only be the grandparents that can hold him. His field is still very wide open, very fresh. In science, they'll tell you the immune system is not established, but we understand that their field is very open. And so, who is able to hold this child, where they've been, what's going on, this and that? It's like nobody's going to be holding this child for 40 days She accepted that. They didn't come until after the 40 days. And my wife's family respected that as well. And that's just what is. And truth be told, if somebody's got an issue with your boundaries. Now, if somebody's got an issue with the boundaries, you're almost proving why I have the boundaries to begin with.
Right.
So if you have an issue with me telling you I'm not letting anybody hold my son, you just proved why you shouldn't be holding my son. And now the distinction to be made is I'm not saying you need to be different. My boundary is not that you need to be different. My boundary is that this is what we are accepting.
Yeah, I think it brings up something that I want to touch on here in the realm of, well, we'll call familial healing or breaking generational curses or whatever. Because I think a lot of people by now, if they've lasted this long in the podcast, they also will be like, yeah, I ascribe to this. This is the type of stuff I want to be up to. This is how I want to stand in the world,
Mm,
and become emblazoned to enroll those around them in a similar truth. And you posted something maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago, a year ago, I don't even know when I saw it. And I think I saw it on your page, which was, if you're yelling at someone to wake up, you're the one asleep.
mm,
And how that plays into the quote is, there's none so self-righteous as the newly awakened.
yeah.
And so the path and how you purport to live it when we feel like we are waking up to the truths of life.
Yeah. And it becomes hard with the family too, because we awaken, in quotes, and we start to understand the degree of our family conditioning. And we start to see these things and we start to heal, again, in quotes, we start to heal these wounds and stuff. But then we go and stay with our family, and now we can see it so clearly in them. And oftentimes we have to go through the path of trying to wake them up, trying to tell them they're fucked up, trying to tell them they're damaged and they need to look at their healing. And it's like maybe the whole relational dynamic between the awakened child and the asleep parents is simply for that child to hold a level of compassion,
Hmm.
to love them in a way that is the closest thing those people will experience to God's love in this world. Maybe that's the only purpose. And to also show you that you can't actually save anybody. And so we will place the closest people to you and show you that you can't save them. And so when I first woke up, I tried to save my parents. Coming back from ayahuasca ceremonies, trying to give them the downloads and what to do, and you got to do the yoga and you got to do the breath work, and let's go do some qigong in the backyard and all this stuff, you know. And they were super receptive. Bless them. I love my parents so much. They were super receptive. They wanted to play along, but their awakening happened when I just loved them where they were,
Hmm.
when there was no force and pressure of like, you need to be different. It's
Hmm.
like, that's my dad. I love him. That's my mom. I love her. And I'll love you where you are. And it invited them more into my world. It was more of a warm welcome as opposed to tyranny of like, you're fucking broken. You need to see this. Like, you're not going to get a lot of openness with that.
Right.
So, because we see that a lot, right? We'll see the healer, the teacher whose brother is asleep. And it's like maybe the whole purpose is to remind you can't actually save anybody. And so
Hmm.
we're going to make your brother, your blood brother, remaining kind of in a state of NPC, let's say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I really like what you said there about the opportunity to truly like share and show them love, because so often the awareness becomes the new tool to whip them with, of like, really? Like, I remember years ago I would like, oh my God, how are you not buying organic food? Like, do you understand that the glyphosate that's on these type of things, like, it's a just endocrine disruptor, and like you're gonna die, and da, 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 da. And my parents are just like, oh my God, like, bro, like, are you good? And this like this funny underlying current that comes through that of like, look, I need you to save because I still need to be saved. Like, if I can just save you and change your diet and change your movement plan, change your breathing and change your investment strategy and change your this and change your that, you'll become the parents that I still wish I had, so I didn't have to walk my own path.
Yeah. Yeah. go visit my parents in Toronto. Might have been the second visit from the last visit right away. Mom, you got to clear out these soaps. You can't be using the fucking fluoride toothpaste. We're clearing everything out of the house. And she's looking at me like, can you just leave me alone?
Right? I was
Like,
good before you told me about all this.
yeah, can you just leave me alone? Um, yeah, I think also there's aspect of it too of maybe fear of losing them,
100%.
you know? And like, yeah, I think it's a bit of everything. It's a bit of like, I love my parents, I care for them, I want to protect them, I want to help them in the ways I can. And there's also like fear of losing them, fear of them getting sick, fear of them not being healthy. And so I can feel when I'm coming from that place because there's like an urgency and a pressure and a tension with it. Whereas the other place feels more open and informative and curious and
Hmm.
non-attached as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about it last night. It's like the difference between, trying to educate them on why their choices are wrong versus like if you really think they're that bad, just go buy them the other thing and don't even say anything. You just go buy them the other soap. Go buy them the other like, I was talking to my mom recently about oh, we were talking about apple cider vinegar and Bill Gates' new appeal thing and how, you
Nice.
know, Bragg's apple cider vinegar bought the contract from Appeal, and so all the apples that go in Bragg's apple cider vinegar are compromised. So you got to get the other apple cider vinegar, mom, because he's just like, I didn't know about any of this, and I realized in that moment, I'm like, she was totally protected from it. Like she didn't have any narrative about it.
Mm, mm.
And now I'm over here implanting a narrative like, oh, this shit's gonna kill you if you don't switch. But her pattern's so deep, she's just gonna pick up the bottle she picks up. So I'm actually like now
You put the poison in the damn thing now.
right now, like I'm the perpetrator. I have
Root
more
implant, yeah.
like yeah. So it's interesting to peel back these layers and like you said, some of it is based in the fear of loss and the fear of just being alone in this reality without that anchor
Mm,
and to the point of now what does it look like. One of my favorite quotes is from Mother Teresa is if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And it ain't easy. It's expert level shit. But you want to talk about walking this path, like that is the place to really test it of like, can I sit in compassion when my parent is judging me or projecting what I know to be full on projection? Could I just hold that line and be like, you are being the most true mom right now. Thank
yeah,
you. And here's still my boundary.
yeah. I mean, for me, the thing we had to navigate with my folks was their fear of my path, right? I don't have a conventional job, whereas my parents held jobs with the same companies for 30 years. And so here they see their son hunting in the wild for himself and his family, and they experienced a lot of fear with that. They experienced a lot of fear with me going down the medicine path and sitting with ayahuasca. They experienced a lot of fear with me moving to Costa Rica and marrying some random woman I met on the internet. They experienced a lot of fear with me speaking some of the things I'm speaking online, you know? And so holding space for their fear, not shutting them down, not thinking, oh, can't you see you're coming from fear? This is a fear-based narrative and you're planting more fear in me. That doesn't need to be this giant conflict. It can just be like, I understand you're afraid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you. It's you're seeing it through your own lens. None of this stuff really makes sense to you. Some of this stuff can seem very extreme to you. Some of this stuff may seem ungrounded to you and out of this reality and all of this stuff. And that's okay. And so I listen. I love them through it. And they're slowly gaining a lot of trust with the fact that like, okay, he's got this. He's got this, you
Right.
know. And I don't blame them because it was fucking scary, man.
Right.
It was fucking scary, some of the leaps I've taken. And I can imagine for my mom watching, being like, oh my God, he's gonna jump off this cliff and he's gonna break his legs when he lands in the water. Don't jump. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I gotta jump.
Right.
You know?
Mm. No, I can so deeply resonate when I left corporate America. My mom grew up in post-war Korea, so poor that she had to eat bugs at some point.
Wow.
And to see, her son walk away from a six-figure salary with health care and benefits and
Right.
401k,
Yeah.
she was beside herself. You know, she
Yeah.
looking back on it, she was actually really kind by just calling me stupid. You know, like the amount of inner work that woman had to do to allow her son to jump off, like wow, and there was many of those moments, similarly of, oh, I'm not getting healthcare. Well, why not? Like, well, okay, let's talk about it and all these
Mhm.
type of things and allowing my parents to be parents, to worry about their son, to care for their son. I don't really need their worry, but I'll take their care, and that's been a really delicate lesson in listening. Like, let me truly understand your perspective in this and not just make mine canon law and, oh, you're a fucking idiot and you just don't understand and all that. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was teaching breathwork last week and I saw it. This guy I know came, and he's an entrepreneur, and his mother came, had no idea what breathwork was, and just showed up because he invited her and wanted her to come and all this. And she went for it. She did the breathing. She fully took herself there. And I acknowledged her at the end. I was like, I really want to acknowledge you for showing up. I know you didn't want to come. And she's like, I didn't. I was like, I know. That's why I'm saying this. And two, yet you still chose to breathe. You still chose to go there. And it just really speaks to the level of love you have for your son to meet him in his ventures and weird hobbies and all this stuff. Like, because I can only imagine the fear that arises in you by letting your son live his path that you don't understand. And she started to cry and she's like, yeah, it's really hard. And I was like, yeah, I know because I am also on that path. And what I can also say is it feels a lot better when our moms are there with us. They don't even necessarily have to believe, they're just willing. And I think to these, unconventional paths, to just be willing to let our parents into them and being like, look, this is what I've chosen to do. I don't need you to like bless it. It'd be cool if you wanted to understand it, but it's okay if you don't. I kind of find it funny when you tell people what I do because I'm like curious what you're gonna say. Because I'm like really like what? Yeah, sure, yeah, that works. But yeah,
Yeah.
family's an interesting one. It's
Yeah, I'm reminded of when I held a breathwork, qigong breathwork and share circle pop up, like a random meetup when I went to visit Toronto, and my mom came with me, and she was in circle. I served her hape. She did the qigong. Yeah, yeah.
wow.
She sat and did the breathwork journey with everybody, and she sat in the share circle as well. And it was just beautiful, man, to have her there, And maybe that was the whole purpose, even though there was like whatever 10, 15 people there, but like maybe the whole purpose was just for my mom to kind of see a little bit into the world. Um, but yeah, back to actually with this, back to the boy and the man, the distinction. It's like imagine getting upset with your parents and reacting to their fears or their judgments because of what you want to choose. You're still tied to that boy consciousness.
Hmm.
Like, fuck you, mom. Why don't you love me while why don't you, bless my path as I'm walking it? Whereas like, thank you, mom.
Hmm.
I love you. I see you. I'm going in this direction anyways.
Yes.
There doesn't need to be this whole like fight with you because I'm choosing this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It leads me to the last topic I wanted to talk about before we wrap up, which is standing in the face of fear. The willingness to share your thoughts online, whether it's about, Palestine and the Israeli occupation of it, or vaccines, or flat Earth, or whatever, right? Like whatever your truth occurs as in this moment. The quote it reminds me of is, "The brave may not live long, but the coward never lives at all."
Mm.
And I'm curious what your message to those who are listening, who are inspired by your platform or your courage, what would your message to them be?
We need to make sure that we don't attach to the clapping hands because when we attach to the praise, then when the hands become booing hands, now we're attached to that as well. And so there was this. slow transition of like, all right, I can't nourish myself off of praise because then when, 100 good comments and then one negative comment, and now I'm stuck in this fucking, this vortex and spiral because of one negative comment. It's like attached to neither the clapping hands or the booing hands.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I'll tell you what amplified my willingness to speak was Palestine. Witnessing what is happening, the fact that speaking truth, the camera is more dangerous to the system than the sword. And so there was a responsibility of like, I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak on this from my unique perspective. I'm going to share. I'm going to embrace being polarizing. I'm going to be open to negative comments. It's okay. If people are rude, I will block them. But like, I don't even know if it's about courage even because I don't feel courageous. It's about a sense of self. I
Hmm.
know myself. I know my heart. And so when I say something and somebody's like, you misogynistic, patriarchal, captain patriarchy, transphobe, this, that, this, I know myself. So I don't need to be brave to speak that. I just need to be certain in who I am to not lose myself to another person's projection or perception of me.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, you might see it as like the courage to be seen. And there is that element to it, but there's also that foundational of like, I know who the fuck I am, man.
Hmm.
I know my heart. I know what I stand for. I know the man I'm here to be. And that can't be swayed by somebody else's opinion of me.
Hmm.
Whether you think I'm Jesus reincarnate, I'm the second coming of Jesus, or you think I'm fucking Satan hijacked by Satan. It's like none of that shit matters.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's not the courage to share, it's the courage to find the conviction in knowing oneself.
Mm, mhm.
Okay. Couple quick fire questions.
Do it.
And they don't have to be quick answers, but where are we headed?
Mm. God knows.
Mm, I like that.
It has not been determined.
Yeah. If you had a message to share with the world, what would it be?
Shoosh. Create.
Hmm. Hmm.
Create.
I love that. Lastly, what does it mean to be human?
Be the meeting place of polarity.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Ihsan, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, this has been a wonderful opportunity to connect on another level. So, thank you also for the work you've done, not only in creating your platform and putting out a beacon of your message, but also creating the fellowship. It's been very helpful for me to have that container on the frequency it is, and to choose to set down some of these coping strategies so that I can see what arises behind them. It has been very, very challenging, but also beautiful. And I really appreciate that container you've cultivated.
Glad to hear that, man. And shout out to all the brothers in the fellowship. We see you. We love you. We walk with you.
Yes, beautiful. Well, thank you again. I appreciate the time and attention. And thank you to the audience for tuning in, for giving us your presence and your listening. And until the next episode, aloha.